you could develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree
And
more.
and and just because I was able to get better, it doesn't mean over time it gets better. Like it's always something that we could risk by not having a good balance.
Hmm. Yes. Um, Hee Jung is one of my students, and she asked, taking culture and diversity of the groups of children you work with, she's saying about that culture. What process do you undergo to take all these factors into account when making a treatment plan or like a behavior support plan?
Absolutely great question. Because when I come in to consult with someone, everything has to be counted. It's like solving a mystery,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very exciting. It's fun for me. But culture it holds so much value into understanding the behaviors, because they are problem behaviors that get maintained by accident by some of the routines that some of our culture have. So it it culture takes so much, um, it holds so much value into any treatment I do. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I have one of my teachers. She was, having an issue with one of her students who what she was removing her shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, no, but she has to keep her shoes on. And I'm like, well, we have to make a judgment call here and start little by little, because let's check in if at home, they take their shoes off when they are in the house, and she's not doing it to escape or just to not do your job, the responsibilities of the classroom. She's just doing it because it's a norm at her house.
Mm-hmm.
um or others, like, they have the customs of eating with their fingers, and it's completely normal at their house. And so it's important. Culture is always important, especially because of language, costumes, traditions. Oh, it's huge. It's a huge factor.
Yes, absolutely.
And I love it because I get to learn about them.
Yeah. And I definitely have had to learn lots of different things from different cultures, especially working in the home. So as a BCBA, some, not Yvette here, she has though in the past, but some BCBAs work in the home, and you're literally in those families' culture in their home, and a lot about food and the way that the house is taken care of. And like she said, if folks wear shoes in the home or not, like just those little kind of nuancy things. And a lot of it's societal norms, and is it us that have to kind of look at our culture of like as being working in this family and in the home, maybe we need to kind of change our lens, right, and making it a little bit more accepting and open to differences and diversity. So it's an interesting question, but it's also just like, yeah, we need to do more of that in general, and getting to know the differences of other people, to really be able to make those specific changes, especially if it's behavioral. So,
Absolutely. Great question.
mhm.
So important.
Yeah. All right. Next question is from Sit Lolly, and she says,
It's
"What's
Lally.
the yeah? What is she? She says, what is the one thing you look forward to in going to work every day?"
There's different things. There's always different things. So it's always different. It's predictable,
There's never a dull moment. Is that what you're saying?
right? It's predictable, but at the same time, it's always different.
Mhm.
What I found that to be, it's cool because it's not something routine. I don't get bored. But um, I do form sort of like in the non-profits and the non-public school that I work. There's this silly students that I always look forward to check in, and um, I don't know. I make as much as I ensure there's reinforcements involved for them. My reinforcements is to get their attention by saying, "Hey, Miss Yvette. Hi, Miss Yvette. How are you?" Just I guess it's that. Sometimes it's their festivities, sometimes it's different. It's really different. There's always something that I learn from a student, from a
Mhm.
staff, or from a simple consultation.
Sure.
Um, it's a
Yeah.
hard question, actually.
That's
It's
a
a
good
hard
one, though.
one. Yeah.
And then she also asked, what is your best accomplishment you've had throughout your career?
Wow. That's wow, Nicole. You're your students.
I know, I told them.
Your students are like like are. Oh,
I
it's
told them to have some fresh questions, and here they are. They're doing a really good job. So,
yeah. Because I mean, thank you guys because it's kind of like solidifying, that I really chose a great career. um. Ah. Oh wow. Well, there has been many stories on different clients that I have worked in the past that I have been part of. And they're numerous, such as like teaching someone how to be independent, how to use the bathroom. And that made a huge change in the family because someone who is like, let's say 10 years old, not, and then the family not have to buy diapers anymore.
mhm,
And then to know that, like, hey, I taught someone how to use the bathroom. Yeah, I don't know.
mhm.
And I don't have kids. It's kind of like cool, cool.
Yes.
Um, Being able to be a little bit fluent with sign language without even going into a formal school for it. I found that to be like even like an accomplishment because like I myself, as English is my second language, so knowing a third one, it's also cool. Um, There's so many, but I will say my daily accomplishments is to be able to be the voice of a lot of non-English speakers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's pretty awesome.
Mm.
Chrissy asks, what is the exam you have to take to become a BCBA?
This exam, it has a lot of aversive stories, and it's a very difficult exam. It's very rigorous. It takes a lot of commitment. It
Mm,
takes a lot of effort. Um, and it's very difficult. It's administered by the boards. Um, a lot of people um take it varies. It varies on how people pass. So it really just takes on your comprehensions of basic principles. It's very technological
mhm,
and mm, it takes a lot of preparation for it.
mhm.
But I would say that it it's possible. It's definitely it's possible.
Okay.
It just takes a lot.
It
A
does.
lot.
A
Realistically,
lot of response effort to get there. So, yes.
yeah. Yeah, just realistically, it's a very rigorous exam.
Mhm. Yeah, so the board certified behavior analyst exam is typically done after your 1,500 hours and your supervised internship and coursework. So that doesn't happen until after all of that is done and you get your master's degree with your certification connected to it. So,
Correct.
yeah. So it is a lot of work. So what do you say, like realistically, if you're working full time, 3 to 4 years to complete minimum?
Yes. Yes, minimum. Yeah. I took my program took 2 years,
Mhm.
and then while I was doing the 2 year program, I was also doing my hours. And then I was lucky to be to I cool like I got the support from my family, and I wasn't required to have a full time, which helped me to put a lot of time into studying and then I was able to identify my learning skills and the way I learn to put all the time I did for the exam. And then I knew that if I leave a long period of time in between, I was going to forget.
Mm-hmm.
So I just identified how I studied the best before I took it. And then luckily it went well.
Yep. Yeah. Chrissy's next question is, what are the settings that BCBAs typically work in?
Um, as I said earlier, you could work with any living thing. Now it's more about where the funding comes from.
Right.
In California, typically you'll find a BCBA working in companies who provide ABA therapy in the homes. Um, there are other BCBAs who also consult privately with, they have their own practice and they consult with schools. They consult, they also work with, let's say, organizations that focus on mass productions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could be working also in fitness and helping, supporting people change their behaviors to become more healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But typically you'll find more in the academic settings or to support individuals with daily living skills.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. How far? Oh, Greg asks, how far do you have to travel to get to work each day?
Well, for the past 4 years that I've been working at the non-public school, I don't drive more than 5 miles. Um, Before this position, I was driving from, let's say I would drive to the office and then we'll do about 2 to 3 visits in 3 different homes.
Mm-hmm. So lots of
So
driving.
yeah, it's a lot of driving, especially because in this field, it's not like you don't work with groups.
Mm-hmm.
You modify behavior. You don't modify behavior in groups. You modify with
Individuals.
you pretty much do single subject designs.
Yes.
You work with one person and you focus on that person. Um, so that's why we have really good reputation because there's a lot of success in their progress because we only work with that individual and their environment. So the best practice is to work with their behavior at their best natural environment. So we go to their homes. Nowadays, there are some clinics in which they take place in the companies or in the clinics, and we hold their sessions there. Um, there is a lot of driving though, so that could probably be a little bit also aversive, especially in California.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Okay. We're gonna, I think, be almost wrapping up. I think I have uh, two more kind of student questions, and then we'll finish up for today. So, my student Tatum, she says, what is the youngest age that kids can receive behavior ABA services?
Well, based on the services that most of our kiddos do have, they start, the earliest age it could be like starting at 2 or 3 based on their authorizations clearance or their referrals. But we could easily start at 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. And then also she asks, what types of behaviors are the most difficult for you to help with?
I would say behaviors that are maintained by internal factors.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I would say, one of the most challenging because those are harder to control.
Mm-hmm.
And then our practice do not involve administrating any type of medications, or we are not experts in any of any of that area. So not knowing why, let's say a repetitive behavior is happening, it could be more, it could be really hard just to control it. Um, and I would say a behavior that might be really hard for me to perhaps target when the environmental factors are really hard to change. What I mean is when the behaviors of others
Mm-hmm.
are, when others are not willing to change
Mm-hmm.
to make that behavior decrease, that is the challenge sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this is gonna be my last question. It's from Ava Maria. She says, "What are the struggles you have faced as a Latina working in your field?"
Um, that's a really good question. I would say it has been kind of like my a benefit or a pro, but also sometimes it has been a little bit challenging coming to households who, let's say, the opinion of someone that looks like me might not be too valuable, versus, an older gentleman with suggestions. And I blame that to our history or just the learning history of the families. Um, might be a little bit, it has been a little bit of rocky, but
Mhm.
not necessarily like a huge one.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say that as a woman, maybe in our field, we tend to have more male individuals with autism. And some of the students who are, older, when even they have a cognition that it's very low, they could be very heavy and strong. So the probabilities of perhaps getting hurt are really high, because if they have a meltdown or an aggressive episode, the probabilities of getting hurt are a little bit higher. So I will say, for me, it's been hard to say I handle it by myself. I got it. Realistically, I know I will need someone to help me, let's say, just to ensure, someone is around,
Mhm. Okay.
because it does happen.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
could
Of
be dangerous.
course. Yeah, and just keeping yourself safe and the person you're working with safe as well. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with my students. Typically, I offer if they have further questions or something they want to ask you specifically, are you open for them to email you and reach out?
Oh my God, absolutely.
I thought you'd say so. So yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to sharing this with my students tomorrow.
Good luck, everyone.